The rescue had come with 4 dogs, which was not the plan. The plan had been 1 dog, a starter dog, something manageable for a family with a 2-year-old and a house that had not yet been fully child-proofed, and 2 adults who worked full schedules and were, they had agreed, probably ready for the commitment of a single medium-sized animal. Then they had gone to the rescue and met Maple. Maple was a 3-year-old beagle mix with the ears of something twice her size and the calm of something 20 years older. She had been at the rescue for 14 months, which the coordinator explained was unusual. Maple was not a difficult dog. She was not behavioral. She was simply a dog that other families had passed over for reasons the coordinator could not fully explain, and that Maple herself seemed to have accepted with equanimity. They had brought her home on a Saturday. 14 months later, Maple had a puppy that was 11 months old, which was not a planned development either. Maple had been listed as spayed, and she was spayed, and the pregnancy had surprised everyone, including the veterinarian who had confirmed it and who had also confirmed that this was medically possible in rare cases of incomplete procedure, which was the kind of information that is simultaneously useful and frustrating. The puppy's name was Fig. He was 1/4 of the original plan. 2-year-old Sarah had grown into 3-year-old Sarah. The dogs had grown into the house. Things were not according to plan and were also fine. What was not fine on the morning of March 3rd was Sarah. Maple knew first. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one. The first sign was Maple sitting outside Sarah's door at 6:40 in the morning, instead of in her usual position at the foot of the bed in the master bedroom. The second sign was Fig pacing the hallway, which was not his usual behavior. Fig was a calm dog, the sort of personality that was either genetic or absorbed from his mother's example over 11 months. The third sign was Sarah, when her mother Josephine opened the door, not getting up. She was awake. Her eyes were open. She was on the floor beside the bed. She had fallen out, sometime in the night, in the way that toddlers who are not quite well enough fall rather than climb, and she was lying on the carpet looking at the ceiling with a specific quality of absence that was different from the comfortable stillness of a child not yet ready to get up. Josephine put her hand on Sarah's forehead. The fever was high enough that she did not need to estimate. She got the thermometer. 104.1. She called her husband. She called the pediatrician. She did not call the dogs. They were already there. Maple lying flat on the floor beside Sarah, with her chin on the carpet, Fig sitting at the door like a small, worried committee member who was not sure what the committee needed to do, but was committed to being present while they figured it out. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. The pediatrician saw Sarah at 8 that morning and found a double ear infection of the kind that develops rapidly and without the gradual warning signs that allow parents to catch it before it becomes significant. Josephine had not noticed Sarah pulling at her ears. She had noticed the previous evening that Sarah was slightly quieter than usual, slightly less interested in her dinner, slightly more willing to sit and watch television rather than do the active running and climbing that was her standard evening agenda. She had attributed this to tiredness. She had attributed a lot of things in retrospect to tiredness. The pediatrician prescribed antibiotics and told Josephine that the fever at that level in a child Sarah's age warranted early treatment, that she had made the right call in coming in that morning, and that the ear infections at this stage were very treatable. She said, "What made you bring her in this early?" Josephine said, "The dogs were outside her door." The pediatrician, who had been practicing for 23 years and had heard versions of this account across all those years, said, "How long before you found her?" Josephine said, I don't know exactly. Maple was there when I woke up at 6:40. She's usually in our room. The pediatrician said dogs register fever through thermal proximity. The infrared radiation from a feverish child is detectable to a dog sleeping nearby. They also register the metabolic changes through olfaction. An animal that has established a baseline knowledge of a child's normal state will notice when that state changes significantly, often before any visual or behavioral symptom is apparent to the parent. She said, "The fact that they were both there is worth taking seriously." She said, "If your dog moves from its normal sleeping position to your child's door, check the child. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one." They went home. Sarah was better in 3 days per the antibiotic timeline. She came home from the pediatrician's office and sat on the living room floor, and Maple arranged herself beside her, and Fig arranged himself on the other side, and the three of them stayed there for an hour, which was the amount of time it took Sarah to feel well enough to start moving around again. Josephine watched from the couch. She thought about 14 months at the rescue. She thought about a dog that other families had passed over for reasons no one could explain, and that Maple had accepted with equanimity. She thought Maple knew what she was for. She had always known. The right house just needed to find her.